So what's up, guys? Hopefully you can hear me. It's me, John. We're gonna start the Chatfuel training on time, like always. So today is gonna be another pretty basic day for you, those of you guys who are really still kind of new into chatbots. Our last session was our first session, and we just kind of went over this that you can see here. What is a chatbot, the advantages of using a chatbot, and a brief introduction into how chatbot works, and specifically the Chatfuel platform. So today, this is session 2. I will probably do another session, right after this session and go ahead and cover session 3. But today, on this session, we're going to do session 2, approximately probably about an hour, and then we'll have some time for Q&A afterwards. And it's gonna be relatively basic. So if you guys at any time, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do everything, just drop down, go straight down through everything. So if you guys have any questions, just put them in the chat, and then we'll get back to those questions at the end once I finish with everything. That way, anybody who's catching the replay is gonna be easier for them to understand, because everything will just be a drop down, and they can get all their questions answered at the end. If your questions are unrelated to anything that we cover in training, you can ask those questions as well. If you have questions about what we're covering, why we're covering, or why we're covering those things, just put them in the chat, and those I'll probably answer why we're talking about that topic, okay? Hey, David. All right, so hopefully from the last training, you guys kind of understand Chatfuel a little bit. At least the intro. So today in this session, we're going to focus completely on this automate tab. All right. So I'm just going to move this guy over here, and then I'm going to just jump right into everything and go into our Chatfuel training bot. So this Chatfuel training bot is going to be really similar, like the demo bot that we did for mini chat training, where probably by the end of the training we'll have a couple thousand subscribers that are giving us money, and that's great, right? We like those guys. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about this automate tab, okay? So if you guys are familiar with mini chat at all, then you guys should be familiar with the flow builder and all your different flows, all right? I would log in and kind of show you a comparison and a contrast between Chatfuel and MiniChat, but the only account that I had that I could still use MiniChat in, they banned it over the weekend, so I got to hack back into their servers and unban my accounts, and I'm not going to do that live, so because I'll get in trouble for that. So we're going to go over this automate tab. This automate tab is really where you're going to do most of your work, okay? So all your message sequences, they're all going to be in this automate tab. So pretty much everything inside your chatbot is going to be inside the automate tab. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over the welcome message. All right. The welcome message, and to do that, what we'll do is we'll just open up Facebook, and then I'll see if we can find Chatfuel training. Let's see if we can find Chatfuel training. Yep, there's Chatfuel training. And get rid of this. All right, so here you can see, let me just delete this real quick. All right, I'm going to delete this. Let's see, get rid of that. All right, so if I hit this test button, you can see we went over all this. We went over your greeting text and everything. Whenever you hit get started, all right, as soon as you hit get started, you are going to be dropped into this welcome message. So it is the first message that your user is going to see for the most part. For the most part, all new users, the very first thing that they will see is this welcome message, okay? So there's 2 ways to get into this welcome message, all right? You can get into the welcome message just like I just did, all right? You can get into a welcome message just by coming to this page. Once you come to this page, if you have everything set up properly, it's going to just automatically pop up. And for some reason, it's not automatically popping up. So let me just see if we can change that real quick. We want to prompt users. We definitely want to do that. So I'm not sure why it didn't pop up for me. It should just automatically pop up on the page, but it's not popping up. no big deal. It will pop up if I actually go visit this as a normal user. All right. So one way a user is going to get into this welcome message is they're going to come to your page, they're going to go to send you a message, and they're going to click this get started button. Once they click this get started button, it is going to drop them into the welcome message. As you can see, this is the welcome message that I have. It says this is a get started message. It pipes off a ref. Don't worry about that. We'll talk about that ref later. And then just ask, hey, what language do you want this in? Whether you want to get your messages in English or German or Ob, if you know what Ob is. So it's a really stupid made-up language from the hills of Kentucky. So not a real language. So you can see I just got that message, right? It was just delivered to me. So that's one way that you're going to get this welcome message. Now there's another way that you're going to get this welcome message. All right. And the other way is through this link right here, this m.me link. If anybody goes to your m.me link, when they go to your m.me link, they're going to be dropped into this welcome message. If they go to your m.me link, and it's either a direct m.me link or it's a link with the ref, and you do not have the ref associated to a block. Now, what does that mean? Okay, what that means is you can see right here in my welcome message that I'm piping out this ref attribute. Okay, we're going to get into attributes later on, but all you need to know about attributes is they're like variables. They're just little, what's a variable? To me, a variable is a box. Okay, it is a box, and inside that box you stick in some information. All right, so the ref is just an attribute. It's a box that holds some information. What it holds is a URL parameter. Okay, so called a ref. Imagine that. So Facebook gives everybody an m.me link. All right, if we go to this m.me link, what it's going to do is it is going to open up your messenger with a conversation between you and the page whose m.me link that you just picked. All right, so your m.me link is always going to be your page name afterwards. All right, so I just clicked that m.me link and it dropped me right in here. All right, now you can see if I go back in and delete this message here. All right, and now I want to send message. You can see it hasn't get started yet. Now if I go back to this m.me link, it's going to drop me back into the same spot. You see, it's dropped me back into the same spot where I have to get started. All right, so that's another way that you can get in by going directly to that m.me link. Now, Facebook is so awesome that they have given us something called a ref. All right, this ref is a way for us to get data into the chatbot. All right, it's really, really, really powerful. So, for example, some of the things that, and we'll get into this, into some of the more advanced trainings, but some of the things I like to do with the ref is, for example, I like to create my own unique little strings for the ref, like this, where I can say email _ John@thinkvaughn.com, and then I can give another little caret, and I can say phone _ 812-722-4722. Now, what this allows me to do, and I could do even more here. I could go in and give another caret here, and I could do, you know, product equals shiny product. Now, what this allows me to do is this allows me to anywhere in the internet. All right, Chatfuel gives you, or Facebook gives you a chat widget for your website. They give you check boxes. They give you buttons that you can click and get right into the chatbot. All right, so what these refs allow you to do is pass data into your chatbot. So imagine you've already got a list of people, right? You already got a huge list of people. You know their emails. You know their phone numbers. All right. Well, if you send somebody directly into the chatbot, you don't have their email address. You don't have their phone number. You have to ask them again for that information. So with this ref parameter, what you can do is you can pass just like I'm doing here. Why am I using a caret and an underscore? No reason at all. I'm using it just so that I have non-standardized characters that are going to be passed in as a ref, that I can create some regular expression, and I can parse this out and say, hey, this dude that just came into the chatbot, his email is this. His phone number is this. The product that he inquired about is this. All right. This allows you, like I said, to pass data into the chatbot about a user coming in. For example, let's say you got a e-commerce store, right? And on that e-commerce store, you've got a bunch of products, obviously, right? So on each product page, you could essentially create with a little tiny easy piece of code, you could create a custom ref that describes on that page the product that's on that page. So if a user clicks a button, send a messenger, you can understand, oh, he was interested about this particular product. All right. So hopefully you kind of understand what the ref is. The ref is just it is just a box for us to store information so we can get that information into the chatbot. All right. To give you an example of this, you can look and see that here I'm piping out that ref. I'm just gonna say, hey, this is the get started message, and I'm gonna show that ref. So now if I go in here and click enter, what's going to happen is it's gonna open up this link in Messenger. All right. Now I need to get started. Now you'll see that data is going to get piped out. You see all that data is right there. There's all that data. Now the data coming from my user, I can bring into the chatbot. Now I can do something with that data. What I would do here is I would send that data out to my server, and I would run a regular expression to parse out this information and save the information against my user, what his email address is, what his phone, and what product he was interested in, so that I know, so I don't have to physically ask him, obviously. All right. So hopefully you understand what the ref is. It's just, if you don't understand what it is, you just leave a comment in the chat, and I'll explain it a little bit more. But it's just a little box for us to go in and get information into our chatbot. All right. Now you're also going to find out, and we'll be talking about this. You're also going to find out that here in a block, all right, in a block, what we can do is we can create what's called a ref URL. Okay, that ref URL, I'll show you what it is. Crap, I didn't mean to copy that. That ref URL, what I can do is I can go in and create this ref URL. All right. Now you will see the big difference. You're going to see the big difference here, and you'll see the second way that you can get into this welcome message. All right, or I guess the third way that you can get into this welcome message. I'm going to call it the second because it's really, really similar. All right. Now see what happens if I go to this m.me link. You can see that this is the same link as before. The only thing is I'm adding this ref parameter, and I'm saying, hey, the ref is equal to block 1. All right. So now if I click this, it's going to take me into the chatbot. It's going to take me right into the chatbot. And you can see, look, it does not take me to the welcome message. It takes me right to block 1. All right. Because over here in block 1, I said, hey, here's a link that goes directly into this block. All right. So now you can see I've got block 2 here. All right. So if I were to come in here, put this in, and change this to block 2, here's the big difference. You will not see this drop me into block 2. You will see it's going to go right back to my welcome message. You see? And my ref down here is being piped out as block 2. The reason that is because by default, if you send somebody to your m.me link with the ref parameter, and you do not have the ref parameter associated to a particular block, then you're going to be, by default, put into this welcome message. Okay, you guys understand that here, block 1, I have literally defined a ref for this block. All right, I have said, hey, this block is ref equals block 1. So that means if I send somebody to this URL here, they're going to go right into that block 1 block. All right, and you'll see that again. It's going to say, hey, this is block 1. All right, so the difference is over here. Whenever I look at block 2, you notice I don't have any link here, okay? I have no link here whatsoever. And this link could be whatever I want. If I want, I can go in and call this block 7 if I want, all right? So I'm gonna call that block 7, and I'm gonna go in there, and you'll see it's gonna take me into block 2, even though I've got it, and it's saying block. Well, right now it took me to block 1, which is no good. So let me double check and see what happened. Even though it should be taking me to block 2, it's still taking me to block 1. Oh, because I edited the wrong guy, obviously. I'm sitting there editing block 1. So anyways, no big deal. It shows you the concept that I'm talking about. Even though this guy is called block 1, the m.me link can be whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to call it is what it can be. You can call it block 7, you can call it foo, you can call it bar, you can call it anything. It doesn't matter, okay? What does matter is that you must have a ref defined for a block for a user to go there, okay? If I were to go like this and put in here block whatever I want, just some random numbers, guess where I'm going to go? I'm going to go right into the welcome message unless somewhere I have defined, hey, if you get a ref equal to this, put a user directly into this block, okay? If the ref is not defined and associated to a particular block, the user will always go into the welcome message, all right? So those are the ways that you can get into the welcome message, all right? You can see I just got, there's my ref right there, and I went into the welcome message. So the ways the user can get into the welcome message, they can go to your page and they can click the get started button. That will put them into the welcome message. They can click on your m.me link, just your normal m.me link, all right? With no ref associated. This one has no ref associated with it at all. They can just click on that normal m.me link. And this actually will not do anything, okay? If they click on this link, it will not start a conversation. It will just open up the conversation where you left off, but it won't initiate any new conversations. Where it will fire the welcome message again is if you send them to this m.me link and you give a ref parameter and you give it some parameter that is not defined inside your chatbot. If you send them to, you know, block John Vaughn, I don't have any, inside my bot, I don't have any block that says, hey, this block is, you know, the John Vaughn ref block. So they're going to go into the welcome message, okay? Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Like I said, if you have any questions at any time, you just put them into the chat. And if they're related to what we're talking about right now, I'll go ahead and answer them. So if I don't see any questions come in, I'm just going to assume that everybody's following and on the same page, and I'm just going to keep moving forward. All right? So this has now covered the welcome message. So hopefully you guys understand what the welcome message is. It is the start of your conversation with somebody. So for me, for example, I think a good thing for my welcome message is just going to be, you know, this, I'll just say, you know, welcome to Chatfuel Training Bot. All right, I know I misspelled something somewhere right there. All right, so this I think is a very good, I think this is just a fine, this is a fine thing for me where it's just going to say, hey, you know, welcome to the Chatfuel Training Bot. This bot is meant to teach you everything you could want to know about Chatfuel from noob to ninja. All right, so there's our welcome block. The next thing is, a default reply. What is a default reply? Well, that's pretty straightforward. We talked before in our last, we briefly went over the AI tab, all right? So essentially, what is the default answer? The default answer is the default answer, as you could understand. It is what your bot is going to serve up by default if it doesn't understand what's going on, okay? So case in point, let's do this. Let's create, you know, just a little AI called block 1. All right, here's that, and we're gonna respond with block 1. All right. So now we've created our little AI. All right. So we've got block 1 here. This is block 1. We've got a default answer. It says bot did not understand. Okay. So if I were to come in here and say block 1, you'll see that my bot's just waiting. I'm not sure what's going on. He's just waiting. He should be replying right now. All right. So you see I'm messaging block 1. And he's replying, this is block 1. All right, so I'll message block 2. And he's gonna say, I didn't understand, because he didn't understand what you're talking about. All right, so anytime somebody sends your bot a message, if your bot doesn't know what to do with that message, if you haven't programmed your bot to say, hey, if you receive a message that looks like this or contains these words, do this. If your bot doesn't know what to do, he's just always going to fall back to this default answer. When he doesn't understand what to do, he's going to fall back to this default answer. Now, as you can see, this is going to happen over and over and over again. All right, I can keep talking to this guy, and he can keep telling me I didn't understand. All right, so one, in the dynamics of building a bot and you know, for usability and user friendliness, you can understand how this could be quite frustrating for your user. You know, your user could come in and say, you know, how much does your Chatfuel training cost? And he can be like, hey, I didn't understand. And then, you know, your user could ask again, okay, I want to know the price of your Chatfuel training. And the bot's going to be like, I didn't understand. And the dude's going to be like, you know, your Chatfuel training, how much does that cost? I didn't understand. It's like, okay, well, you're a stupid bot then. I didn't understand. I can see you didn't understand. I didn't understand. It's like, why would I buy anything from you? You're an idiot. I didn't understand. So you can see how this would get frustrating to your user if they just keep getting the same message over and over and over again. All right. So you have ways around this. All right. You have ways around this where essentially what you could do is you could have a go-to block, and I'm pretty sure in here you have some last I wonder what this last scene is less than. Okay, this is a date, so we don't care about that. We don't care about that. So, all right, we could do this within 24-hour window. All right, so we could do this, but this probably isn't going to work well for us neither if we go within the last 24-hour window. All right. But we could actually write some logic if we want. We'd probably have to go on a server-side script to do that. We could write some logic to go in and check to see how many times today has this user got this message. And if it's more than X, no longer send this message to him. All right. You'll learn once we get further down into the training, into the more advanced stuff, that I keep my default block, my default reply is always going to look just something like this, just like this. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to outsource all this stuff to my AI, all right? I'm going to use a natural language processor. I'm going to use Dialogflow to process natural language, a more advanced AI. And anytime my bot doesn't understand anything, I'm going to send him essentially to a learning algorithm that can record the data, and as it goes on can begin to actually understand and learn what people are saying in their natural way of communication and respond back. So I always leave my default answer blank with a call to essentially the Dialogflow API. Actually, I send them to a software that we've built, and if you're in the Tier 5 community, you get access to, which is a Dialogflow client. That makes it really, really easy for you to integrate Dialogflow's NLP with your chatbot. All right. So what you do need to know about the default answer is it will fire every single time that it will fire every single time that you put out, you give something to the bot and your bot doesn't understand it. Okay. So we could do something like this. Here's another thing that we could do. So we could do a default answer. All right, we could do a default answer, and essentially what we could do is we could go in and set up a user attribute, and this could be that could be this, and we could say, you know, hey, let's set this equal to 0. Let's set this equal to 0. And then we could come over here, and essentially what we could do is something like this, where we could have a go-to block, and then we could have some text. All right, and then we can go in and say, hey, if default answer is greater than 0, go to default answer. All right. If not, do this, and then in this default answer, we could essentially do something like this. Oh, we need to do this. All right. We could essentially do this, and then I think we're going to need one more block. So let's try this. Bot didn't understand. Bot still didn't understand. So let's go in and change this real quick and put in this. Default answer fired. All right. Oh, so what we need to do is we need to do something like this, where we have a setup user attribute at the end, and we need to set this equal to 1. All right. So now that's set up equal to 1, and then over here we need to do something where we're like reset and then over here we can set this user attribute to 0. All right, and then we can do something over here like a go-to block where we can say, you know, hey, if default answer is greater than, let's say, 5, then we'll go over here to reset default answer. And then I think that should work, hopefully. All right, so we can do test. He's going to be like, hey, the bot didn't understand. So now we'll do test again, and then we're not going to get any answer. You see, the bot didn't reply to us, all right? We can do test again, and this will probably be easier if I come in here to this default answer and then essentially put this right here and then just put in here so you guys can see what's happening. And then we can put test again, and you can see that that's 4 times. Test, that's 5 times. Now if I test again, guess what? Now I'm going to get bot didn't understand. Now I'm going to get bot didn't understand. Just kidding. All right. So you can see what we've done here, right? Now this is set back to 0. Now if I go test again, it's going to go to 1. Actually, it's going to go to 2 because we're already at 1 here. And our default answer itself, we set this value to 1. All right. So now we set this value to 1. The first time that we fire off the default answer, we're going to set this value to 1. All right. Now, the very first thing that we're going to do in our default answer is we're going to check and say, hey, this default answer fired, is this greater than 0? If it's greater than 0, we don't want to keep repeating the same message. We want to send them over to this other default answer block where all we're going to do is some math. We're just going to add, we're going to increment what their default answer fired variable is to 1, and that's it. Well, I mean, we are going to pipe out and show it to you just for demo purposes so you can see the variable increasing over time. But this wouldn't be there if it wasn't for you guys, you know, needing to see what's actually going on. We wouldn't have this there. And then we would just say, you know what, if this default answer has fired more than 5 times, then we want to reset the default answer. And whenever we go over there, we're just going to reset the default answer fired back to 0, so that whenever he gives us something else we don't understand, this is not going to evaluate to true anymore. This will be false, which means we'll come down here and we'll be able to give the default answer again. All right, so all that makes sense to everybody. Now, this is one way that you can do it. This is definitely one way that you can do it. Like I said, for me and my bots, I just outsource the default answer to a natural language processor that has a neural net connected to it where it can learn, because I don't want my bot to be stupid. I want it to get smart over time. So I want to train it to make it understand what users' intents are whenever I see different messages, okay? But you can definitely do something rudimentary like this. Let's say you're gonna have kind of like a basic bot that's just gonna have, you know, a few different functions, right? So in your default answer, you could literally just put a message that says something like, you can't do that, how about try this, all right? And then you could give a link back to some of the actual functions inside your bot. So whenever they get the default answer, they can see, oh, well, the bot doesn't know what to do. I can do this or I can do that. And you can have this constant flow where you always want to be prompting your user to do something, right? If not, they're not going to know what to do. All right, so that is the default reply. So hopefully you understand what the default reply is. If you don't, you just leave a question in the chat bot, or leave a question in the chat box, not the chat bot, in the chat box, and I will answer it. So what is a block and how to create a group? All right, so this thing right here is a block. This we've seen already. What is a block though? Well, a block is essentially a linear string of either messages or actions, all right? So you could see, like, for example, in this default answer, this is a block, but we don't have any messages here. Well, we got this message, but I'm gonna get rid of that message, all right? So you can see we don't have any messages in this block whatsoever. All we have is actions, all right? I can show you some other blocks in one of my other bots that are very similar. So let's look at this one, and you can see here, here is a block right here. There is no message that happens in this block. This is strictly routing, all right? So that means this is strictly an action. All it is conditional logic. There's no message at all that will ever happen in this block. All we do is we look to see what a person is interested in, and based on what they're interested in, we route them somewhere else into the block, all right? Or somewhere else into the bot. This is what I call a router. I have several of them. Like, for example, this is a text in bulk router. That doesn't actually need to be there. But this is the same way. There's no message here. This is strictly routing. This is just strictly to what this does is you can set a price point inside this chatbot, what you want to sell a product for, and then we just look to see, hey, this person in the chatbot was referred by somebody, and that person has said, I want to sell this product, text in bulk, for this price point, so we need to route them over to show them the product at this price point. But this block has only actions in it. There are no messages. But for you, a block can contain whatever you want. It can contain messages, it can contain actions, and it isn't a linear process. It's a top-down, top to bottom sequential programming, all right? With what you could amount to very, very simple conditional clauses, if this, then that, or very simple go-to statements, go over here, go over there, all right? Which typically you're gonna include some filter on those guys. But you gotta understand that this is a top-down thing, all right? Meaning, for example, if you have a block and you're like, hey, I wanna show the user's email, all right? And then you're going to ask the user, what is your email? All right, if you were to do this, well, this isn't gonna make much sense because the user is going to go in and see, you know, your email is, and they're going to see something blank because you haven't collected their email until after you're showing them what their email is. So just keep in mind, this is sequential programming. Start at the top and then go to the bottom, all right? So if you somehow think that it's going to make sense that, to you that somehow a user is going to come into this block and they're first going to get this message, and then they're going to get this message, and then they're going to get this message, and then they're going to get this message, I'm going to say you probably have some mental disorder that you should probably go get checked out somewhere. You need some medication. You need to go to school somewhere. That's just stupid. All right, it doesn't make sense. This is just a very logical thing. It is top down. Start at the top and then go down in a sequential manner. All right. Now, so that is a block. Hopefully you guys understand what a block is. This is where all your content is going to go inside a block, whether it's a message or whether it's some type of action, it's all going to go inside a block. All right. Now, all your blocks are inside what are called groups. All right. So if you guys are familiar with ManyChat, then you're familiar with the flow builder, where they give you like this visual process to let you visually see how everything looks and what are the different connections and the different routes a user can go. Well, Chatfuel doesn't have anything fancy like that. They are a lot more powerful, especially if you can understand that ref parameter. If you can understand that ref parameter and create some basic regexes for that ref parameter, you will find that they are very, very powerful just because of that ref. All right, but they don't have any fancy flow builder or anything like that to give you like a quick visual ideal of what's going on where users go. So what they do is they have all your blocks in groups, because you can understand that you can understand, for case in point. All right, let's add a group and let's call it a lead magnet. All right, so we'll add a block called lead magnet start. Probably spelled that right, wrong, who cares? All right, so this is going to be the start of your lead magnet. All right, so let's say here we're going to ask a user, what they're interested in. So here we're going to ask a user if they would like some X-rated content or non-X-rated content. All right. So now we're going in. This is going to be our lead magnet. What we're going to do is we're going to deliver some content to get some information from our user, and that content is either going to be X-rated content or it's going to be just normal kid shit. All right. So I failed. I was supposed to go. I failed. My first cuss word came out, I think. So I'm going to try again. I'm going to try again tomorrow to go a whole day without saying a cuss word. All right. So now you can see what's going to happen here is hopefully that you can understand here what's going to end up happening is essentially you've got a user that's going to come in here. All right. He's going to get this message right here. And then he's got two routes that he can go. He can either go over here to this X-rated stuff, or he can go over here to this non-X-rated stuff. These are the two little paths that he can follow and continue. All right. So for that, what we would do is we'd have another block here called X-rated. And then we can have another one called non-X-rated. All right, so now if he wants to come over here and he wants to X-rated, I can send him over here to this X-rated block. If he wants to non-X-rated, I could send him over here to this non-X-rated block. All right, now if he comes into this X-rated block, I need to ask him, if he's old enough to get this content. All right, so I'm going to ask him, hey, are you at least 18 years old? Yes. No. So let's say that he is essentially, who cares there, non-X-rated, That's great. I need to capture his email. All right, so let's capture this dude's email. All right, we're going to give some basic validation here. There's some basic validation. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put this into lead magnet. Let's spell that crap right. Magnet. I think that's right. Who knows? I'm not sure if that's right. So now what we're doing here is we're going to store this value into this lead magnet. We're going to ask, you know, hey, are you at least this? So we're going to go in and put, you know, X-rated age verification. All right. Then I'm just going to come back over here and change that. That's great. Non-X-rated. So this doesn't actually need to go anywhere. So now what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to go capture his email. So I'm going to capture his email, and then here I'm going to create another block called X-rated content, or let's just call it X-rated. All right, so we got a lead magnet. We're going to ask this dude, do you want X-rated content or not? If he says he wants X-rated content, we're going to come over here and verify his age. If he says no, all right, so I'm going to send him over there. If he says no, to not old enough, so he's not old enough there. And then from here, I'm going to send him to this capture email. All right. So, and then from this capture email, I'm going to essentially have a go-to block, which is just going to be if lead magnet is if it's X-rated, then he needs to go to that X-rated content. If not, he needs to go to that non-X-rated content. All right, so now you can see here's my, and if you were in ManyChat, we would call this a flow, right? This would be a flow, but we're not in ManyChat, all right? We're in Chatfuel, so we don't have flows in Chatfuel. We don't have a little visual builder, all right? We've got blocks and we've got groups of blocks, and you can understand how these are all very pertinent to the exact same function. So we want to group them into a group, all right? You wouldn't want to have these things all over the place, because then it's going to make it really, since there is no visual builder where you can go in and visually look where users go. You know, a user comes in here and then they go over there and then they go over there, all right? There is no system like that. So you can't visually just look at something and easily understand, okay, they go here, they go there, let me make all these edits. So you got to use your brain a little bit, unfortunately. I mean, I know it sucks, but you got to use your brain a little bit. And for that, what we don't want to have another group here, you know, called random group or whatever. And then just drag these guys down here into this random group. All right. Why? Because you can understand that, hey, whenever you're going here, you're going to be like, okay, this guy goes to X-rated age. Okay, that's there. Okay, this guy isn't. If he's no, he's going to go over here. Okay, If he's yes, and he's going to go right down here, that's going to go to capture email. Okay, as we got his email. Okay, if he wanted X-rated stuff, he's going to go to X-rated. Well, what's X-rated? Oh shit, it's down here. You don't want to do that. Trust me, you don't. Especially once you get a bot that starts to look like one of these bots, like this. If you get a bot that starts to look like this, I mean, look at all these groups of stuff here. If you really want to go through each and every one of these groups and, you know, try to go through here and figure out, okay, where does this go? Where does that go? If that's really what you want to spend your entire day doing, be my freaking guest. Spend your entire life trying to figure out where the hell shit goes in your bot and waste a whole bunch of time. I don't like to do that. I don't like to waste time. It's a really stupid thing. So these groups are just meant there for you to keep everything in order. And for, you know, since you don't have some nice little linear, you don't have some nice little visual process to look and see, you know, well, where does this go? Where does that go? Keep everything in a group, you know, that's why I said in the first training, I recommend that you first draw something out on paper, diagram something, and then in that diagram, guess what? That entire diagram of a conversational sequence, I want to do this, this, and this. I want to get somebody to sign up for a webinar or whatever, you know. I want to deliver a lead magnet to somebody, get some information and deliver out a PDF. You're going to see that you're going to have some conversational flow. User comes in here, goes over there, routed over there. If yes, here. If no, there. If he answers, you know, he's got a budget of this, go over there. If his budget is higher than this, go over there. You're going to see that mapped out on your paper. All right. That's going to make it much easier for you to build. And everything that's mapped out on that paper most likely is going to go into the same group. It's going to go into the same group of blocks. Great. And then you can, even if you want, you can go in and create a block that is nothing but an explainer to you, so that you can go in. Let's say you make that image, right? You diagram out that image. You can upload that image and put it right into the bot, and then just not ever send anybody to that block. You can just use it as, you know, you could go in and do this. You could say, you know, lead magnet. Lead magnet overview, and you can put your picture here, and you can put a bunch of notes here, so that if you want to come back later and see, okay, hey, what was this lead magnet group about? Okay, we'll go to the overview. No user will ever go here. How do you know that? Because you never link it up anywhere. That's how, because you never make links to this block inside your bot anywhere else. This could be just strictly for you to know, okay, hey, what is this whole lead magnet thing all about? All right. So let's create a little simple AI here that's going to say test, and then we're going to put this guy into this lead magnet start. All right. So now we'll come over here. Sorry, this is one of my clients, and ManyChat decided to delete all my bots again because they found one of my accounts that I had. So now I got like 17 clients that all their bots have again been deleted. A lot of them for the second time from ManyChat. So they're like, hey, John, what's going on? And I'm like, ManyChat. This is one of the reasons that we're using Chatfuel. Is even though I like ManyChat, they're not quite as powerful, especially because the main disadvantages of ManyChat is their default reply only fires once every 24 hours, which makes it real impossible for you to set up any real AI that's going to learn. And they do not give you access to the ref parameter, which means you cannot send custom data into the chatbot, which is a must if you want to build any type of functional bot. You want to get data. Like, for example, we got a real estate bot, and we make landing pages for each and every listing. that the real estate agent has, all right? And on every landing page, there's a lead capture form, and whenever they submit that lead capture form, we pipe them into Messenger, and we show them the house that they're actually inquiring about, more information about the house that they're inquiring about. Well, we would never be able to do that without access to the ref parameter, because we essentially grab some data from the website to know what house that they're inquiring about, and we pass it in as a ref parameter, so that once we put them into the chatbot, we can grab that ref parameter and we can send that out to the MLS API and get back all the listing details and show it to them in the chatbot. Without the ref parameter, that would be completely impossible. I mean, it wouldn't be impossible, but it would be so much manual work. We're adding in like 70 lead pages a day from their MLS listing. I'd have to go in there and physically build out flows for every single one of them, and it would just be too much work. And I don't, although I want to build them for that work, I don't want to actually do it. Okay, big difference between charging somebody to do some work, but then actually having to do the work. I would prefer to have a much automated system and then still be able to charge you for the work, but not actually have to do it. That's how I like to do stuff. So anyways, this is where we're at. We're going to run this test, and we're going to check out our lead magnet, and it's going to be like, hey, this is the start of your lead magnet. Do you want X-rated or not X-rated? Well, I want some X-rated. And then he's going to be like, okay, are you at least 18 years old? Yeah, I'm totally 18 years old. And he's going to be like, okay, can I get your email address? And I'd be like, yeah, sure. So I'm going to give him my email address, and then he's going to deliver me my X-rated content. All right, so now I just got my X-rated content. And do it again. Let's get some non-X-rated content. Now he's just going to ask me the same thing. What's your email address? I'm going to give him my email address. There's my non-X-rated content. This as well, I do, even though there is no visual builder or anything like that, I do feel that the block system and being a sequential thing, what it ends up doing innately is it innately enables you and forces you to build very lightweight bots. Like, for example, you see this message where it's asking me for my email address. That's just one message. That's one block. Now, in ManyChat, what you would end up doing most likely is having that message repeated 3, 4, 5 times, creating a very, very heavy bot for their servers, okay? It's going to, because you're going to have so many redundant pieces. Well, in Chatfuel, it innately creates very, very non-redundant bots. And what I mean by that is you don't have little, the same little blocks of stuff repeated over and over and over again, because you don't have to, because they're not attached to one big flow somewhere. They're all just individual blocks that you can send somebody to. And as long as you use attributes correctly, then you can send users back to where they just came from. After you can say, oh, lead magnet, you can have one block, collect email address. And oh, I need your email address, send them over there. After collect email address, look and check where did they just come from, send them back to wherever they just came from. And that you can do, no big deal. So that essentially is a block and how to create groups of blocks. Does that make sense? Hopefully you guys don't have any questions there. If you do, just put them in the box all the time. So the next thing, how to duplicate a block. Well, this one's pretty hard, I gotta admit. What you have to do to duplicate a block is you have to come in here to the block, and then you have to come up here to this button and click that button right there. So that one's pretty tough. All right, if you want to duplicate this block, click that button. All right, pretty straightforward. So it's that button right there. It's the one that says duplicate this block. All right, you just click that button, block will be duplicated. How to delete a block. All right, that one's also fairly complex. You also have to go to that block, and you got to find this little trash can that says delete this block. You got to click on it, and then you got to click on this big red delete button afterwards, and then that deletes it. Okay, so also fairly complex. Find the block that you want to delete, go to the top, see the little trash can, click that button, and then it's going to be like, are you sure you want to delete this block? And then you're just like, yes, I do, or no, I don't. And then it's deleted, okay? Very different, very, very different than this delete button here. If you click this delete button, this is going to delete the entire group of blocks, all the blocks in that group, all right? Which is why it's forcing you to go in, and it's even telling you, look, all of these blocks are going to be deleted, and you have to type in all caps delete in order to actually delete this entire group of blocks, all right? Pretty simple there. What is main menu and how to configure it? All right, so your main menu, persistent menu, you can see I have one down here. You can click on it and you can see it says get full training course, sub menu, and create a bot on Chatfuel. So if you are not a pro user, if you don't pay Chatfuel a fee every single month, there's two things that are gonna happen. You're not gonna get access to this people tab right here, and you will always have this create a bot on Chatfuel in your menu. The only way to get rid of, there's two ways to get rid of that from your menu, okay? One, you upgrade to a pro account on Chatfuel, or two, you hit the Facebook API and you know, just call the Facebook API for a persistent menu and override the persistent menu, which would most likely violate the terms and services of Chatfuel. I'm not sure if it does violate their terms and services or not, but it most likely would violate their terms and services. But you could, it's really easy to do, but it's just as easy to go in and pay them the monthly fee. And that's what I would recommend doing, because if you override it with the one, most likely you don't know how to make API calls, and you don't know how to even go find the persistent menu API call, and don't understand the JSON object and what JSON object you need to give them for your persistent menu. So that's probably going to be a whole ordeal just for you to actually understand how to make an API call in the first place. So it's going to be much easier. You just go in and pay the dudes, and it's really, I mean, from my opinion, they're very moderately priced. I mean, it's $30 a month to start out with, and the power that they give you is, I mean, they cost just as much as MailChimp cost. And I mean, MailChimp cost also $30 a month, and ain't nobody opening your damn emails. Trust me on that. Ain't nobody gonna open those things. So this is the persistent menu though, all right? This that you're seeing right here is a persistent menu, all right? So what is it? It's a menu. And it's persistent. What does that mean? It doesn't go away. It stays there all the time. It doesn't go away, all right? If you're on a phone, and I have a phone somewhere, I'm pretty sure. Let's see. Here's a phone. Let me just pull up my, let me pull up Zoom here on my phone, and I'll show you this on my phone. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like real quick on a phone. If I can join this meeting, my personal meeting. I don't think I want to join any audio. I just want to share my screen. All right. So on your phone, your persistent menu is that's why they call it persistent, because it's down here at the bottom. You see it's down here at the bottom on your phone. This is why it's called persistent, because it's always there. All right. So here's a sub menu. Go to block 1. You can see what that does. All right. So big difference between your phone and on a browser. On a browser, it's going to be right down here. All right. So it's just a menu. You can understand what a menu is. You got them on your websites. They're everywhere. They're just quick actions where somebody can quickly get to some place or get to some messages or go to some website. All right. So how do you set them up? That's pretty easy. That's going to be on your configure tab right here. On your configure tab, you can see here you've got a persistent menu. All right. Here's my persistent menu. Here's, if you want to get my full training course, you've got a couple options here, all right? You can either send somebody to a block. We already talked about blocks. So whenever they click on the menu, you can put them into a block. You can send them to a URL. You can send them to a web page, or you can open up another submenu, all right? So you're only allowed 3 menu items, and then on those 3 menu items, each menu item you can open up into a submenu, and those guys are allowed five guys, all right? I'm pretty sure, let's double check, I'm pretty sure that you can put 5 guys there. Hey, can I do another submenu? Are you kidding me? No shit, Sherlock. Wow. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Let's see how many of these I can do. All right, so I can do 5 here. I can create a submenu. Looks like I can do 5 here as well. All right. So I can create, on my main menu, I can have 3 guys, all right? I can have 3 menu items on my main menu, right here, on this main menu. I can have 3 items. Those items can either go to different blocks, they can go to URLs, or they can open up a sub menu. That sub menu can have 5 menu items, all right? Those 5 menu items can also be another sub menu, which could also have 5 more menu items that can only go to a block or a URL. So what that is going to look like, all right, what that is going to look like is you've got your menu, you can have up to 3 items, all right? Each item can come down and have 5 items. All right, and these guys can also have 5 items if you want them to be submenus. All right, so that's 3 times, I guess you could have 3, each guy could have 5, that's 15 times 5. What is 15 times 5? I think it's 75. Could be wrong. Could be wrong because that's pretty complex math I'm getting into. But yeah, 15 times 5. So you can essentially have in your menu, you could have a way to get, they have to go 3 clicks in, but they could get to 75 things, all right? So that's your menu. Let me delete all this crap. That's your persistent menu. You can see that it's pretty easy to understand. Your persistent menu, you can have 3 main guys. Those main guys can go into submenus 2 levels deep, and you can have 5 of them. That gives you a total of 75 things if you want. And they're either going to, you can only route into a block, a URL, a web page, or another submenu. But you can only route into that submenu twice. And at the end of the line, you're only ever going to be to go into a block or a URL. All right. Now on those blocks, though, Chatfuel does some crazy stuff where they let you put in as many blocks as you want. All right. So you can completely randomize that. They just, I can't tell you what algorithm they use, if they use a round robin or if they use some weighted randomized number, but you can go in and give multiple blocks, and that will essentially randomize someone going into that block. So you could essentially have, for example, you could have a random joke on your menu. And that random joke, you could have a random joke block group with 100 random jokes in there, and then you can just list, you can click every one of those 100 blocks, and somebody clicks on your random joke menu, and then it takes them to one of those 100 blocks, and they click it again, it takes them to a different one. All right. So I need to figure out how to delete all this crap because I don't want this crap there. I'm going to just delete that whole submenu. There we go. All right. So that is your persistent menu. Hopefully you guys understand your persistent menu. Any questions about that, or everybody good on the persistent menu? The only other thing I want to mention on the persistent menu is it can be localized. All right. In your chatbot, Facebook gives back some standardized data. All right. So let's look at that real quick. In block 1, we'll just look. If you look here at these attributes, you see all of these purple things. All right. These are all default attributes by Chatfuel. All right. These guys are all default Chatfuel attributes, meaning they are not attributes that you have created, and you cannot stick data into these attributes. It will not work. All right. These are reserved attributes from Chatfuel side. All right. Some of these come from Facebook, like the locale, that comes from Facebook. You can see it's the user's messengers language settings. Gender also comes from Facebook. Time zone comes from Facebook. First name, last name, and messenger user ID and profile pic all come from Facebook. So does ref. That also comes mostly from Facebook for the most part. All right. Everything else is a default value from Chatfuel. All very useful, like last user free form input. That's really useful. That tells you like the last message that the user sent you, what was that message? All right. That's really necessary if you're going to integrate with an AI, because whenever you integrate with the AI, you got to tell the AI what the message was. So you've got to have it stored someplace so that you can hand it off to the AI. All right. But what we want to talk about is this locale. All right. That's the user's messenger language settings. So inside Messenger, you can set the language settings that you prefer. All right. That is called a locale, not a location. All right. Don't get them confused. So in Chatfuel, in your persistent menu, you can add localization. What that means is you can have different menus depending on the language that somebody prefers. All right. So my menu right here is all languages. All right. Because my bot's only going to be in English. But let's say you want an English bot and a Spanish bot. Well, as far as the menu is concerned, you can localize it. You can add a localization for English, and you can add a localization for Spanish. All right. And now you can go into the Spanish bot and you can say, you know, some Spanish shit. Something like that. I'm pretty sure that will work. I am fluent in Spanish, but I don't write Spanish very well. All right. So you can see this says toma el curso completo, take the complete course, versus the English is going to say get full training course. All right. Now, if somebody goes to your chatbot, if they have their messenger language setting as Spanish, they're going to see this menu here, which can be completely different. You can have one menu item over here, and you can have two menu items over here. It doesn't matter. The menu is going to be relative to the user's language. All right. I don't care about languages. I'm just going to do all languages because my bot is only going to be an English bot. All right. So, so that's pretty much everything you need to know. And step 4, this is not related to a menu, but they put this here for some reason. I'm not sure why, but it's here. So we're going to talk about it. And it says allow user input. All right. If you want to know what that means, you just hover over this. It says by default, users are allowed to input text messages into the bot. You can disable this functionality by triggering this switch. Users will only be able to interact with the bot via buttons in gallery and text cards, quick replies button, and the persistent menu. Note that disabling user input removes this functionality everywhere in your bot flow. What does that mean? If you never want the user to type you a message, you can turn this off. All right. Now this is turned off. If I refresh this page right here, you will see inside my chatbot, I cannot send a message. All right. Do you see it says composer is disabled for this thread? The user cannot physically type you any messages. They can only interact with your buttons or your quick replies. That's it. They can't ever, like if you were gonna ask them for an email address, they can't give it to you because they are not allowed to put free text input if you turn that option on, all right? You can see sometimes it could be useful. If you don't want users to give you stupid random data, you could just turn it off and say, hey, you can only interact with me by mashing on my buttons, all right? I'm gonna leave mine on because I like the stupid random messages. And that's about it there for the persistent menu, all right? Any questions on the main menu or everything good on the main menu? All good? What is a sequence and how to create a sequence? That's a good question. So this is a sequence right here, all right? So I'm gonna answer the second question first, how to create a sequence. That's really easy. You go to the Automate tab, you see the button that says Add Sequence or Group. You click that button, and you see the button that pops up that says Sequence. You click that button. You just added a sequence, all right? So that's really, really easy. That's how you add a sequence. How do you delete a sequence? You go to the sequence, you find that little delete button, and then you type in delete, all caps. Been deleted. Sequence deleted. All right, let's add it back in. Now you know how to add one. Now you know how to delete one. But what is a sequence? Well, hopefully you can understand just by looking at this. A sequence is a series of messages or a series of blocks, not necessarily messages, a series of blocks that are distributed over time, like a drip campaign. Case in point, this one. All right, let's just create a sequence. All right. To show you what it is. I'm going to say, hey, after seconds. So I'm just going to say, hey, immediately. And then I'm going to say, hey, after 15 seconds. And then I'm going to say, hey, after 30 seconds. All right. So let's see, your user will get this as soon as you add them to this sequence. All right, here's the next one. Your user will get this 15 seconds after the previous message. And here's 3, and this is, imagine that, your user will get this 30 seconds after the previous message. All right, so now you can understand hopefully what a sequence is. All right, you can make this as much as you want. Let's say, I mean, you guys already probably do this in your email campaigns, right? Somebody comes into your website, they opt in, and you're like, okay, as soon as you opt in, you get an email. But guess what? I'm going to send you another email tomorrow. And guess what? I'm going to send you another email the next day. Guess what? I'm going to send you a fucking email a day for the rest of your life. All right? And people do that. I have people literally that I don't even know why they send me emails, but they just send me an email a day about some stupid ass story that they want to tell me about because they want me to buy something from them. So they're like, here's a story, here's a link, buy something because I told you the story. Well, guess what? You can do the same thing right inside your messenger bot with the sequence. All right? So this sequence, you can see you've got some options here. And those options are literally just whether you want to, you can turn something off at any time. You can understand what that means. If it's turned off, they're not going to get that message in the sequence because you've turned it off. All right. But other than that, you can say, hey, I want this to go out immediately after the previous message, or seconds after the previous message, or hours after the previous message, or days after the previous message. Okay. If you want to delete anything, one single item in your sequence, just click on that thing and do just like you would normally. Click delete this block and delete it. All right. Now inside a block, somehow, somewhere, we've got a test somewhere. Where is that test? Set up AI. Test is going to, where is test going to? Lead magnet start. We're going to get rid of that. And we're going to send that to let's just add a start sequence block. About to start the sequence. So to add somebody to a sequence, you just use this to sequence card right here. All right, so you just use that. You can add filters if you want. You can say, hey, if this dude's a guy, add him to the guy sequence. If this dude is not a guy, add him to the not a guy sequence. All right, we don't care about those filters right now. We're just going to add them to new sequence 1. Just added user to sequence. All right. So now we're going to come back over here and put this to start sequence. All right. So now you can see start sequence is set up on my keyword test. Whenever I type in test, I'm going to reply with the start sequence block, which is just going to say, hey, I'm about to start the sequence. Then I'm going to physically add the user to the sequence. And then I'm going to give this message that says just added the user to the sequence. When I add the user to the sequence, I am immediately going to send this message. After sending this message, 15 seconds later, I will send this message. And then after sending this message, 30 seconds later, I will send this message, which means the total elapsed time of this sequence is going to be 45 seconds to receive all messages. All right. So now let's go in and type in test. And you can see, hey, about to start the sequence, just added user to sequence. Not sure what happened. What did happen? I just got it now. There we go. Your user will get this as soon as you add them to the sequence with approximately a 7-second delay, it seems like. All right. Just keep in mind immediately, guys, there is no such thing as immediately. I mean, there is no such thing as present. All right. Like the current present is just it's all a function of how accurate you want to measure something. Same thing in Chatfuel. Immediately does not necessarily mean immediately. It means immediately with the margin of error. All right. 15 seconds later, same thing. 15 seconds later with the margin of error. It could be 12 seconds. It could be, 22 seconds. So don't, if you're expecting your bot to really report in real time in nanoseconds, you better not use Chatfuel. For the most part, you better not use most things in the world because that type of real time just doesn't exist. All right. We're going to call it pseudo real time for the most part. But you can see I've got everything in my sequence now. So I've got all 3 of these messages in my sequence. All right. You can remove people from a sequence if you want. There's things where you can go in and, say, hey, unsubscribe from a sequence. This subscribe to sequence. Subscribe to sequence is the same thing as to sequence, the exact same thing. Subscribe to sequence is to sequence. Unsubscribe from sequence will remove a user from that actual sequence. So, this is the last part of our training. So the last part is how a sequence can be beneficial for your bot or for your business. So, I'm sure you can understand. I'm sure you can understand just by what we've explained on the sequence how it can be beneficial, right? You can have a user subscribe to the sequence, and then you can follow up with them. You can send them a message every hour, right? You can send them a message. Like for example, what have I used sequences before? I've used sequences in quizzes before. All right, Or I've used sequences whenever I want to make sure a user finishes something, right? Let's say for example, that lead magnet block, right? So at the beginning of that block, I can subscribe a user to finish lead magnet group, all right? I can subscribe them to that sequence and I can put in, 100 messages that say every 5 minutes, send the user back out to this block until finally I realize that they give me their email. Once they give me their email, unsubscribe them from this sequence so that now they start my lead magnet. They haven't given me my email. Every 5 minutes until they give me their email, I'm going to be telling them, hey, give me that email. Give me that email. As soon as they give me that email, fine, I'll unsubscribe them from that sequence. All right. I use them for, I've got daily, one of my bots does daily motivation. So I just have, you know, some messages from Confucius and some messages from Gandhi and, you know, from Aristotle and like all the types of people that would just, you know, just say some fucking real arbitrary shit to make you use your brain. Well, I've got a bot and that's all it does is it has a bunch of quotes from famous people, and every 24 hours it sends you a new quote, and it's like, yo, use your brain, what about this or what about that, all right? So literally you can understand that the use for sequences in your business is huge. It's just depending on what you want to do. You can have informative sequences where, let's say, for example, here, what are we going to use a sequence for? Well, once this training is done, so the same thing that I did in my mini chat training. Once this training is done, once we record all these sessions, I'm going to sell this training for $500, all right? Once a user starts this training, guess what? They're going to get added to a sequence that's going to say, hey, go finish day one, do day one. Actually, they're going to get added to a sequence that's going to have a router, and it's going to be the same block every day that's going to say, hey, do today's training, and it's going to look and see what training are they currently on, and it's going to route them to that day. All right, and once they're done with that training, it's going to update them to the next day, and then 24 hours later, they're going to get another message that says, hey, go do today's training. And if they skip it that day, 24 hours later, they're going to get another message that says, hey, do today's training, and they're going to be on that sequence until they go through every one of our training series, which is like 25 videos in this training series, all right? And my sequence is going to force them to go through each and every training series. I'll probably put like 100 things in there. That way they can skip it 4 days. You know, they can have 4 days where they skip, and if after that they skip, then they just don't finish the training. All right. So that's one of the things that I'm going to use it for. But you can understand you could use it for whatever use case that you want. It's really invaluable. So that's it for this session, though. We pretty much covered this entire automate. We pretty much covered this entire automate tab and what it does. So that's it for this session. Unless you guys have any questions or anything that you want to go over, we've got time for those questions. You're good, Shelly?
I think the only thing new might have been, I don't think I saw anything new. Because I think I've got like all of this in my bot already. The only new stuff I saw was you using the attributes at the very beginning and setting up rules. I haven't done a whole lot with that yet, but I had an epiphany while you were doing that. So I'll probably institute some of that in my bot tomorrow.
Well, we will be going over our next training session. So our very next training session, we're going to go over Chatfuel cards. We're going to do a brief overview of all the different Chatfuel cards. Not all of them, just these ones in particular. So just these ones that you see down here. Obviously, if we were to go over all of them, there's even some of these, like I don't even have a freaking Instagram account. Like I don't even know what Instagram is. I'm assuming, I know it has something to do with pictures or some shit like that, but I don't even have an Instagram account. So I don't even have a Twitter account. I don't tweet, I don't Instagram. You guys are lucky I'm even on Facebook because I barely Facebook. But so I don't know what those things are. I don't know what that is. Some of these stuffs I've never used them before, but like Google site search. Are you guys ever going to use Google site search? Probably not, unless you have a website and you specifically enabled and configured Google site search on your website. If you have, then you may use that. So we're not going to go over each and every one of these. We will most likely go over these most used ones in addition to these that are listed here. But then we're also going to go over these attributes as well in our next session. We'll get in depth in attributes and you'll learn more about those. So someone said that you missed starting thing. You would like to ask, please remove this Zoom window. I have no idea what that means. So, I mean, we're on Zoom, so I can't remove the Zoom window. So, but you had a question. What was that question that you want to ask?
So my name is Sunil Sharma and I'm from India.
Okay, what was your question though?
The question is, I'm not a techie guy at all. To be honest with you, I didn't know how to make landing pages and anything like that. Do you think it's going to be easy for me? First question. All right. The second question is, after taking your chatbot, Fuel chatbot, do you think I really need a landing page? I really need an autoresponder and all of that?
All of the above. So I can't tell you how easy it's going to be for you because I don't know you enough. I can say some people could never build a chatbot because they just don't have because they don't use a logical brain. I would venture to say that chatbots are pretty simple though. From my perspective, they're pretty simple. Anybody, as long as what I tell my employees every day, like especially when we have meetings, is I'm like, hey, did you turn your fucking brain on before you came in here today? So as long as you do that, right? As long as you turn your brain on, and what do I mean by turning your brain on? Just get into a state of focus, right? Like you need to tell yourself, like me, whenever I have client chats, like I have almost a photographic memory. Why do I have almost a photographic memory? Because I turn my brain on before I go into a client conversation. And I realize, hey, I need to pay attention whenever they're saying stuff. I'm going to repeat that stuff in my brain so it sinks in. So as long as you turn your brain on and you focus and say, okay, hey, this is what I'm going to do, especially if you diagram, right? That's what I've told everybody. Diagram and write out a flow and, draw a little picture of what you want to happen. Then yes, I'm fully confident that yes, you would be able to build a chatbot relatively easy. Now, are you going to be able, if you're not a techie guy, are you going to be able to do some of the advanced stuff like the server-side scripting, create your own little regexes to deparse a custom-built ref to pass in a bunch of data into your chatbot? Probably not. I mean, sure you could, because it just requires some Google searching. But you can always reach out if you need help with that. But for the basic bots, yeah, sure, you'll be able to build them. Now, are you going to need still a landing page? Yeah, sure, you definitely need a landing page because if you think what's happening in the chatbot, from a lean philosophy, what you want to do is you want to match. So I don't know if you know anything about lean philosophy, but it's a Japanese philosophy, and it's what literally caused Toyota to become the huge corporation that they are. And they really teach that you need to try to match output to capacity, which means if you got a machine that can produce 120 units per hour, that machine should be outputting 120 units per hour, because if not, it's inefficient and you're wasting time. So in a chatbot, the lean philosophy is you want to match content delivery with content consumption plus a small, let's call it rest variable. What does that mean? Someone sends you a message, you don't want to send them all at once 400 million fucking words, because they can't read that shit all at once, and they will not, trust me, that dude will not just scroll up infinitely. I mean, he scrolls up a little bit and sees that there's a bunch of content he still ain't read. He ain't reading that shit. Trust me on that. He's not. So what you want to do is you want to just give small little bites of information, right? Give a small little message, let him read that, give the next message. Let him read that, give the next message, all right? Now, this is completely different than a landing page, right? And a landing page, bam, all the information is there. He's got a way for him to go through and look and search and find what he wants. And a chatbot, he doesn't. So are you gonna really get rid of your landing page? No, definitely not. You're still gonna have a landing page. Most likely you're gonna integrate the chatbot onto the landing page to help answer questions that he has, right? Are you gonna get rid of your autoresponders? No, probably definitely not. Like, for example, my autoresponder, we have, if you're in the tier 5 group, you know that we have our own custom autoresponder and text in bulk that gives you emails, SMS capabilities, and phone calls. Are you going to replace, like, if you're selling, let's say you're selling a high ticket item, right? I'm in India too, by the way. I live in India. So, let's say you're selling a high ticket item that's more than $1,000. Is that dude gonna buy? Is the average person gonna buy a millionaire? Sure, a millionaire might just fucking spend $1,000, no question asked. But the average person ain't gonna give you $1,000 until he has a phone conversation with you. All right. They're not just going to get into a chatbot and be like, oh, fuck, $1,000. Yeah, let me spend that. No. So it's not going to replace all your other communications. It's not going to replace your landing page. It's not going to replace your autoresponder. It's just going to augment those things. It's going to be another channel for you, another touch point. It's just going to be an augmentation, not a replacement. So yeah, you definitely still want that, because you still want, like, even from your chatbot, for example, even from your chatbot, you can drive people to your landing page and get them to opt in and watch your videos and stuff like that. So not a replacement, just an augmentation.
But let's say if I want to have a complete training on this, do we have some, I heard from GC that you've got approximately 300 people in India who would be supporting all of us in case if we face any problem.
I've got 40 engineers that work for me, not 300. I've got 40 engineers that work for me. I'm close to 300. I'm going to be there. I'll have 300 in the next 2 years. But I've got 40 engineers that work for me here. And can I say they're going to be supporting all you guys? No, I can't really say that they're going to be supporting all you guys. They're going to be supporting people who pay me money. Yes. They're not going to be supporting people who don't pay me money. So if you're in the tier 5 community, it's a $97 a month fee. If you're in that community, yes, there's engineers that work for me that are dedicated in that community to help support people. But I'm not going to go out and say they're going to help everybody, because the Chatfuel trainings, what happens with the Chatfuel trainings is I will let anybody attend the live session. All right. Anybody can attend the live session, no cost. But if you want access to the actual training course and the materials, all the previous videos, all the replays, like you said, you came in late. Well, if you want that content, if you want to make up the content that you missed by coming in late, well, you're going to pay for that. You're either going to pay $500 for the course, or you're going to join our community, or you're just not going to get the content, just like that. But yes, we do have engineers that will support you. If you're in the Chatfuel, if you're in our community, if you're in the tier 5 community, you can get a bot developer for $700 a month that will work full time for you and just build all your chatbots for you if you don't want to build them. So yes, there are engineers. If you're part of the community, there are engineers that can help you with whatever you need. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Anything else, guys? Any other questions or anything that you have? Oh, my camera's turned on here. Holy crap. No other questions? You guys are all good? All right, well, that's it then. I'll send you out a message. It will probably be late for most of you guys, because I'm gonna take like a 30-minute break, and then I'm gonna do the other training probably in about 30 minutes, go through the next one, because I really want to get day 1 done. So we'll be going over this. This is still very, very basic stuff. If it's late for you guys and you can't catch the live training, for a lot of you guys, I know you're in the group, these will be made available to you. If you're on the JV team, you will specifically find them. If you go into the bot and you do something, I'm pretty sure it's like JV team info, and then you'll see here's Chatfuel training, and then you will see all the videos are going to be right here. All right. So you just go into team info and then hit the Chatfuel training, and then this video is going to be added there in just a second, and then the next one that I do later on today will be added in there as well, so you can just watch those. It should be simple enough where you're not going to have any real questions, just like this one. It's not going to be super complex, because day 1 is just really the basic understanding, and then once we get into day 2, let's see what's in store for day 2. Day 2, we start getting a little bit more advanced. I mean, AI tab we go over, Grow tab is still pretty basic there. But then we jump into dialog flow in day 2, which is a little bit more complex. And then we go into the configure tab, which is also pretty basic. Most of this we've already talked about. Like we've already talked about persistent menu. We already talked about localization. We haven't talked about time zone, but that's pretty easy. It's just the time zone of your bot. Like, I don't know what else to talk about there. So that's pretty easy. And then the rest of this also pretty easy. So day 2 for the most part is also pretty easy, other than just a brief intro to dialog flow. And this is pretty easy as well. This is easy, but we're going to get into the broadcast API, which is missing from there. And then Zapier, Zapier is the main thing that you don't want to miss, because Zapier is going to teach you how to really do all your external integrations and get data out of your chatbot and do a bunch of external integrations. JSON API, you also probably don't want to miss that, because that's going to allow you to talk to your own server-side scripts if you got your own server-side scripts. If you don't, I've got engineers that will build your server-side scripts if you need them to do specific things. And then we're going to do, a Tier 5 plugin to talk about Tier 5 softwares and how you can use those in your chatbot. And then day four is Integromat. You definitely don't want to miss that one, because that is like Zapier on steroids. So that one's really, really important. And then we're going to go through actual in-depth on Dialogflow, how to get Dialogflow set up, how to set up an agent, how to set up intents, how to set up utterances, how to set up entities, and how to essentially connect that AI that you build with your chatbot with the Tier 5 software. So, and then there's another day of training that isn't even here because I haven't even planned it out yet. But it deals with a bunch of stuff on the growth tool and how you can do some of these things with regular expressions and the ref URL and stuff like that. So, anyways, that's it for this one. I'll see you guys at the next one. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Or morning.
I'm just starting, so I'm just starting.